Hello, and this is going to be 11B, an incredibly short video. I think it's like 5 slides. And this is going to be about regional productivity. We talked about the critters that are actually in the ocean in 11B, and now we're going to talk about where they're located and why they're located regionally. So the first thing is we're going to talk about polar oceans, and these are limited only by sunlight. So winter, where there's almost no sunlight, you can see that the life, either zooplankton, which is the animal, or dinoflagellates, which are actually going to be, or diatoms, which are going to be both plants and animals, spring and summer when the sunlight is actually there, and then fall they both taper off again. So they're limited by sunlight. There is no thermocline, and I'd like you to draw these three. We're going to talk about high latitudes in this one. There's no thermocline. It basically is cold all the way up. You can see it gets a little colder at the surface, and probably because it's real close to the ice and it warms up a little bit, but it's still, 3 to 4 degrees all the way down to the bottom. Vertical mixing only by upwelling. Have no trouble at all sending water from the nutrient-rich oxygen-poor water up to the surface so it can get oxygen-rich and the phytoplankton can bloom. And again, a very biologically productive area up by the poles. We're also going to talk about low latitudes, the tropical area, which has the largest thermocline. Thermocline, again, is a big temperature change, and you can see it cools off with a relatively small depth change. And we have a pretty well-developed one here in the mid-latitudes too, but we're not really going to talk about that because it's somewhere in the middle of the two that we are talking about. So the tropical ocean, which is this one, productivity is low because we get very little mixing between the nutrient-rich water and the oxygen-rich water at the surface. So whatever nutrients there were there, the life has taken it and tied it up and then basically has disappeared. Even the life that is there, once it dies, it goes to lower depths, and it's part of that nutrient-rich water. Very strong thermocline, lots of sunlight, warms up the surface. Again, you've got the cold nutrient-rich water below, and you get very little mixing. It inhibits vertical mixing, so you can't get the nutrient-rich water up where the oxygen is. And then tropical oceans, high productivity. You do get that near the equatorial regions where you get the northern winds moving this way, the southern winds moving this way, and because of the Ekman current, you get water moving to the right at 90 degrees and to the left at 90 degrees in the two hemispheres. And what that does is it pulls the water away from the surface and brings up a little bit of upwelling from below. And you also get coastal upwelling where you get winds coming off the continent and it takes the surface water, blows it out in the ocean, and brings up nutrient-rich water to the surface, and you get a plankton, chlorophyll, phytoplankton blossom. And here's the blossom along the equator. And again, the areas above that and below that, pretty much a desert inside the ocean. Temperate oceans, okay, this is where we live. Strong seasonal components. It does better in the winter than it does in the summer. The thermocline gets closer to the surface and we actually get a better chance of moving. You can see we actually have, this is phytoplankton and zooplankton, so we get the phytoplankton up close to the top, the zooplankton down below, which will come up and actually try to eat the phytoplankton, especially at nighttime. Nutrient supply, if you take a look during March, April, May, June, July, where the sunshine goes up, we get life going up, nutrients going down, sunlight goes up, grazers actually go up as the algae, the phytoplankton goes up, the phytoplankton eaters goes up, and then as the phytoplankton dies, so do the grazers. Then we get another one up, another increase, a little bit of an increase in the phytoplankton in the fall. Amount of sunshine. Energy flow in marine ecosystems, it's one directional. It goes from producers, which are the autotrophs, taking in sunshine, making in carbohydrates, making the glucose. It goes to the consumers, which are the heterotrophs. Then the herbivores, which are the plant eaters. The carnivores, which are the meat eaters, and primarily they're called piscivores, which are fish eaters. And then you also have omnivores, which will eat a little bit of both. And then you have the decomposers, which again are heterotrophs, but they're going to live off the dying autotrophs, herbivores. They don't really care what you are, but they're going to eat off it. And then I think the last one is the energy flow, low entropy, where we have Very little mixing. It takes a lot of effort to try to put stuff into life. And then high entropy, where we have lots of mixing, and that's basically the water where it gets decomposed and the materials that were in life are mixed with the water and the sediments so they can actually be pushed back into life. Sorry, symbiosis is the last slide. Symbiosis is where life actually lives with other life, and you can do it one of three ways. You can have what's called commensalism. This is where one critter benefits and the other critter is not harmed or benefit. The fish that are actually swimming along with this shark are protected. They also get a little bit of a streamline as the shark goes through the water, but the shark doesn't care at all, doesn't help it, doesn't hurt it, but it does help the fish around it. So helps one, doesn't bother the other. Mutualism is when they both benefit, like we actually have here with this clownfish living in the sea anemone. The clownfish will actually eat parasites around the sea anemone, and the sea anemone, which has very sharp poison darts, will keep other fish away, and he can actually dive into the anemone. He does get stung, but eventually he gets a built-up immunity to it, and also a mucus lining on the outside, which protects him from the stings. Partially protects him, but he can go into it, lay into it, and be protected by the sea anemone. Here's another one where the fish are actually eating parasites off the turtle. Turtle benefits because it can swim through water, and the fish benefit because they can eat the parasites. And then we have parasitism. That's where one benefits and the other one is harmed, like this little minnow here with the two sea fleas, which are sucking blood out of this creature, and it actually is going to weaken this creature. Hopefully it doesn't die, because then the parasites are not doing well. So parasitism is not supposed to kill the host, but it very much weakens the host, makes it more susceptible to other things. And there is our alien telling us to stop, and that was our 11B. Thank you for stopping by.